Okay, let's talk about singleton class. So what is singleton? Singleton class is a class where only one object is created and that too inside the class by the developer. Usually when we create class, there is no limit. N number of objects you can create the way you want. But here only one object is created and that too inside the class by the developer. That means clients or users of this class are not allowed to create the object. We'll see in the discussion how can you ensure that clients or users cannot create the object. Along with that, class has got some non-static useful methods for clients to invoke. Now the first point is only one object is created, that too inside the class by the developer. So clients are not allowed to create the object. And the second point is class has got non-static methods for clients to invoke. Now we all know that non-static methods, in order to invoke non-static methods, client need object. Clients need object. So from where they will get this object? They cannot create the object. Developer will ensure that client cannot create the object. So from where they will get this object and invoke non-static methods? That is the most important question here. So the last point is, since clients cannot create the object, they have to use the object created by developer in order to invoke non-static methods. Clients are not supposed to create the object. They cannot create, in fact. So what can be done is, in order to invoke non-static methods, clients have to use the object, one and only one object created by the developer. And we have to see exactly how this happens. Okay, so let's write an example. So let's say class singleton. Now you know the concept that class is developed by the developer and class is used by the client. So I'm writing one more class here as usual, public class demo, in which we have public static void main. Okay, so we know that this class is written by client. So developer develops a class and client uses that class. Now here, if we look at this class singleton, I haven't written anything yet. So what can we say here? Do we have any constructor in this class? Answer is yes. We know that when we don't define any constructor in the class, compiler provides default constructor. So we have default constructor in the class. That means at present, in a current scenario, client can easily create object of this class by saying singleton s1 is equal to new singleton. Correct? This you all know. Now this is exactly we don't want. We have to ensure that client cannot create the object. So how exactly we can achieve that? If you don't want client to create the object, you have to provide private constructor. So we'll define private constructor like this. Yes. Now see, since private constructor is available in the class, client cannot create the object. Client cannot create the object. Okay. Then we have discussed that only one object will be created and that too inside the class by the developer. So developer will create one object of this singleton inside singleton obj is equal to, or yeah, let's follow naming convention. Singleton is equal to new singleton. Don't get confused. Singleton, when I say S capital, is a class, and here this singleton is a name of reference. It's a convention. Sometimes we use singleton S1, S2, S3, OBJ. That is not convention. This is convention. Singleton. I repeat, in singleton, S capital means class, and in singleton, S small, that means it's a reference variable. So developer creates an object, singleton is equal to new singleton. Okay, and now we have also discussed that there are some useful methods, non-static methods for clients to invoke. Let's say display1, display2. Let's pretend that display1 and display2 are useful methods for clients to invoke. Okay, but these methods are non-static. So think about client. At present, I have got class singleton, in which as a developer I have created object. I have defined constructor private. So I ensure that clients cannot create the object of my class. I have defined two non-static methods which are very much useful for client to invoke. Now think about client here. Think about client. Can client say singleton ref is equal to new singleton? No. Why? Because the moment client says singleton ref is equal to new singleton, compiler will check whether singleton is available. Yes. Constructor is available. Yes, but private. So client cannot invoke the constructor. That means client cannot create the object. Okay. But client would like to invoke these methods because we are as a developer, we have defined these methods for client. So client has to invoke these methods. Without creating object, how clients will invoke these methods? So in this case, we as a developer, we have to help client. How exactly? We have to return this object which we have created here to the client. And using this same object, I repeat, same object. Using this same object, client can invoke this display1 and display2. Client cannot create new object. So we have to return this one and only one object to client somehow. And then using that object, client will invoke display1, display2. So for that, we'll have to write one more method. Get singleton. And the return type is singleton. Now what does it mean? The method name is get singleton and return type, method name is get singleton and return type is singleton. It means this method is going to return object of singleton. This method is going to return object of singleton. That's why return type is singleton. So now we are going to design this method, and from this method, what are we going to do? We are going to return this object. Now this object is referred by which reference? Singleton. So we'll say here return singleton. Return singleton. Right? So clients will invoke this method. Clients will get this singleton object sorry, the bracket here. Yeah. Clients will invoke this method. Clients will get singleton object which you have created. I mean, they will get a reference to the same object which we have got or which we have created. And using that reference, they will invoke display1, display2, right? That is the idea. But wait, we have defined this method which returns the object which you have created, that is true. But think how clients will invoke this method. How clients will invoke this method. Right now, this method is non-static. And for invoking non-static method, clients will have to create object. That is what they cannot create. So again, there is a problem. So now we have to ensure that this particular method clients can invoke without the object. How is that possible? That is possible only when we make this method as static. And in order to access by all the clients will make public. Why we made this method static? So that this method clients can invoke without the object. Object creation is a problem for client, no? Object creation is a problem for client. And that is what we have solved now. How? We have made this method static. So clients need not create the object while invoking this method. Clients can invoke this method using the class name. Our class name is singleton. So they will say singleton.getSingleton. And they will get this reference. Okay, let's see how exactly. Clients will say singleton.getSingleton. Now just check. Can they say? Can they access singleton? Yes. Can they say singleton.getSingleton? Yes. Because getSingleton is a static method, public method, which they can access. More importantly, it is static, so they can say singleton.getSingleton. They don't have to create object. And that is what we want. Now, when we say singleton.getSingleton, what is the return type of getSingleton? Singleton. What are we returning? We are returning the reference of singleton. The reference which refers to this object. So when we return the reference, we have already checked. When we return the reference, we always collect it in another reference. So clients will write here what? Singleton ref. Singleton ref. Okay. Singleton.getSingleton, singleton ref. Now let us discuss how exactly it works. When client says singleton.getSingleton, when client says singleton.getSingleton, singleton class will be loaded. Singleton class will be loaded, and this object will be created. This object will be created. Okay, so we'll see that in the diagram. But before that, look at class singleton and just think, are we done with the singleton class? We have created one and only one object. We have a private constructor so that clients cannot create the object. We have display1, display2 non-static methods for clients to invoke. And we have getSingleton method, which is going to return one and only one object which you have created. And this method is static, so that clients can invoke this method without creating object, and they will get the object which you have created, right? But wait, this static method is accessing singleton. So is that allowed? Look at the singleton. Singleton is equal to new singleton. So this reference is what kind of variable in the class? You all know when we don't give static keyword, it is non-static. Non-static means instance member. So it means that our static method is trying to access instance member or non-static member. Our static method is trying to access instance member or non-static method, non-static member. That's not allowed. Static method cannot access non-static data or non-static member. So how will you solve this problem? Still one problem is there in the singleton class. How will you solve this problem? You will solve this problem by making singleton as static. Now it's correct. Now since singleton reference variable is static, static method can easily access that. Correct? One more care we need to take. This singleton reference, which is there in the class, it shouldn't be accidentally accessed by client. So how will you ensure that clients should not access this singleton variable at all? So make it private, which we already know. Okay. Yeah. So this line is private static singleton is equal to new singleton. We are creating the object. We have made singleton reference static so that it should be accessible from static method. We have made singleton as private so that clients should not be able to access it directly. So this is private. And now let us discuss how exactly it works. Now when client program executes singleton dot get singleton. In order to call get singleton, clients need not create the object. They can directly call it. So when clients, they call get singleton, what happens? Singleton class gets loaded. Singleton class gets loaded and this object is created. So we have singleton class object. Singleton class object referred by singleton reference. By convention, the name of reference is singleton. Okay. And then what will happen? Since client has called get singleton, control will go inside get singleton method and return singleton. Return singleton means this object will be returned to client. And where exactly and how exactly client collects it? Client collects it in a ref, which is of singleton type. That means ref is the reference which client has got, which will refer to same object where singleton reference refers to. So this is what client gets. That's it, done. Now client can invoke non-static methods ref dot display one and ref dot display two. Okay, so this is the way singleton class works. So singleton class is a class where only one object is created, that too inside the class by the developer. Clients are not allowed to create the object. We do that by defining private constructor. Singleton class can have non-static methods, useful methods for clients to invoke. Yes, display 1, display 2. And the most important point, last but not least, developer has to ensure that somehow client should get the reference to the object which he has created. Only one and only one object. So all clients should get the reference to the object which he has created. For that, he has to write a method. From that method, he has to return singleton class object. That's why return type is singleton. Now, in order to call this method, clients need not create the object, so make it static. Clients should be able to access it freely, so make it public, and then return the reference. How clients use singleton class? They say singleton.getSingleton, because getSingleton is static method. GetSingleton will give them reference to one and only one object created by developer. They collect in their own reference, and using that reference, they invoke non-static methods. That's it.